Your Excellency, everybody. I want to talk about people who tell lies.
People
Who tell lies. People who tell lies about their travel history or their symptoms. Is there going to be some sort of penalty? Because they are endangering not just themselves and their families, but everybody in the country and beyond, because of the way COVID-19 is so easy to spread. Will there be some punitive measures? Just as an example. Then, it's really alarming to see how many cars come out each day. Even today, there was traffic on the way coming. And I'm wondering, where is everybody going? Can we rectify this? Is there any way that people can be convinced, encouraged to remain in their houses beyond what has already been done? I know a lot has been done, but people need to stay at home. Then, finally, you spoke about 1 million households, going through about 1 million households. There's an active case search now, there are sampling sites and everything. Is this likely to get worse? Talking about people who are positive for COVID-19 before it gets better. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Dayo Jerindi. I write for Punch newspaper. I have 2 questions for the governor and 2 for the commissioner. For the governor, the first question I would like to ask borders around hazard allowance for health workers. A lot of health workers I've spoken with said they are dissatisfied with what they get.
they are what?
Dissatisfied. They're not satisfied with what they get. Some people told me that they get as low as 5,000 per month as hazard allowance. Is it not the time for the state to increase the hazard allowance for health workers to motivate them at this trying time? Then secondly, sir, resident doctors at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital who are exposed to treating COVID-19 patients.
What?
Resident doctors
Yes.
at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital.
Yes.
That are exposed to treating COVID-19 patients, this stay and live in the community. Do you have a plan of building a residential apartment for them within the hospital?
I don't get the question.
Resident doctors
Yes.
at last rather
Yes.
still stay and live within the community. Many of them are exposed to COVID-19 patients. They treat them when they come. Is the state having a plan to build residential building for them within the hospital? To the commissioner, the sample center so far, how many samples have been collected and how many of them have been tested? How many samples have been collected in the sample centers and how many of them have been tested? And finally, on the death of the late chief of staff, on Saturday, the commissioner tweeted that he died at First Cardiology Consultant Hospital in Ikoyi. I called the hospital and they denied ever having him in the hospital. I want to ask, at what point, I called the hospital after the commissioner's tweet, and they denied having him in the hospital.
Okay.
So I want to ask, at what point was the late chief of staff brought to First Consultant Cardiologist in Ikoyi? That's the question for the commissioner, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Governor. My name is Sheyi from Yola today. I report for Lagos Television. My first question here is about the local production of the face masks you just mentioned that is going to be rolled out before the end of the week. Now, my question is, how effective are these local face masks, rather, to ensure that it curtails the spread of this virus we are talking about? And the second one is that we see some pockets of young men that are trying to secure their vicinity now, probably because they noticed a lower presence of policemen in the environment. Now they gather to protect the environment. What are we putting in place to ensure that this doesn't scale up to something that constitutes a nuisance after COVID-19 era? Thank you.
Can we respond?
Yes, we can take this set of questions, sir. We have the language.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary. The first question was around what are we going to do? People telling lies. I think it's a very, very serious matter, and it speaks, to conscience, to the depth of our conscience as human beings, as Nigerians, as people that speak to the dignity of what we truly believe in. We have taken a decision coming out of even this meeting that we're actually going to be prosecuting people. We are going to make 3-4 people scapegoats and examples, because it's not only unfair, you're also risking the life of other health workers who, if you don't say the truth, there was no way for them to know where you've been, who you've been in contact with, and what your previous life history or health history has been. I think it's only when the full arm of the law, touches a few, right, that they will know that it's a very serious matters that we're talking about. But it also has a flip side as well too. Is also just to ensure that health workers to also heighten their level of suspicion, right, to be sure that once they suspect any, they certainly would raise the alarm and ask that such patient be transferred or calls be made for us to come and pick up such patient. But I think it's an important point you raised, and I think it just speaks to the value that each one of us holds, as an individual and as a person. And there is no better person than you gentlemen of the press to make this a conversation in our community, to make this a very serious communication, that it's not a time where people need to joke, about who they are not or who they are. We all need to come, not 98, not 99, but 100% sincere as to what you know about yourself. But like I said, we are going to prosecute a few examples. In fact, we're working on 3-4 names already, and that we're going to make examples, and we're going to publish and publicize such names. Traffic, what can we do? I think it's all of us taking responsibility. All of us taking responsibility, and we've expressed this in so many ways. Twice I've spoken to the Commissioner of Police today. Short of the governor himself going on the Cool Bridge to begin to apprehend, people that are not meant to be on the road. It's just unfortunate, and there's nothing that we have not done to get people to understand and appreciate that this is a little sacrifice that we can do for our tomorrow. It's a little sacrifice that we can do for ourselves. If you are not on essential service, if you are not part of people that have been exempted because you have an essential or an important assignment to do, you will not be on the road. Part of the things that we've also said with the traffic officers and the police is that the checking time too, whilst they've had to constrict, from 4 lanes to 3 lanes or to 1 lane, right? The checking time to ascertain who you are and what you're going to should be fast, so that it doesn't tail back and constitute, a half-kilometer traffic, to the back, so that they are not unduly asking questions that are not important. Once you've been able to show your ID card and where you're going to, they should flag you and go. Not to now be asking what is in your boot, what are you carrying, and all of that. So that is the information I've also passed on today. And those are the 2 things that are causing it. Will it get worse before it gets better? That's a very direct and very simple question. But the commissioner too will still speak to it. If I must answer directly, it will get worse before it gets better. Because what it means is very simple. We want to flatten it once and for all. We do not want to have a spiking move up and down. So that's why we're knocking on doors. That's why we've, had to decentralize sample collection to all of the local communities and all of it, because we know that it is now in the communities. So we need to come and get everybody out tested and ensure that once they're tested, we also can get treated and clean out of the system. So yes, it might get worse before it gets better. But once we have a strategy around it, life can still go on if we have a mechanism that is working around it. Dayo asked a very tough question that I'm not sure where that is coming from. And it's not true. Where is Dayo? That's not true. If some people are just passing information loosely to you, your responsibility is to do investigative journalism and find out what is the correct position. There is nobody, and I repeat, there is nobody that is in our front line that is on a COVID-19 list of having been treating a patient that has earned anything around 5,000. The least person, if I dare say, will have earned 20,000. In fact, we've even doubled that. Even for drivers that are driving, they are not even earning 20,000. The last allowances that I gave, drivers were earning 40 and 60,000. So it's not true. But however, what that person probably would have told you is that before COVID-19, in their normal pay structure, maybe there is an allowance called hazard allowance that they are earning 5,000 naira. I don't know. Because if you are in Ibejuleki or if you are in Alimosho and you are a normal health workers and you are not under the COVID first line of respondents, right, you are not part of the people that have given allowance to. But however, since you have asked it, because I've also increased their workload this month, there's a plan that I'm also going to increase their individual allowances for this month for every of our entire health workers, in respect of if you are on the front line of COVID or if you are just treating somebody that has malaria or somebody that has a cut in his leg. So that, I'm sure, will put an end to that. But it's always very easy for people to just throw numbers at you. It's not true and it's not what we're doing. Okay? And it takes me to the next question, which you also said, which is why, as a journalist, let's be very investigative. So when you say that I must build accommodation for lawsuit doctors because they are treating COVID-19. First is that lawsuit is not designated as an isolation center. It's a teaching hospital, right? So it's not. But however, it's not to say that a COVID-19 patient might not come in. But it is not an isolation center. It's not a treatment center for COVID-19. Secondly is that I cannot go out and build a residence or build accommodation in 2 days or 3 days. To build accommodation is 2 years, is 3 years. So if a resident doctor told you that they need accommodation, this is not the line to use to get accommodation. We have a program, we have a plan to meet all our people. And they are not, because they are resident, they are not treating COVID-19. They are treating their regular patient as a teaching hospital. But like my sister Mary said, in the event that a patient now comes in lying about who he is or what he has done, that is what triggers the suspicion. And once we identify and see that it's a COVID-19, it goes to a COVID-19 treatment center, which we have at the isolation centers. Thank you very much. What point was the late Chief of Staff brought to Ikoyi? Well, we have my heart and my soul goes to the family of the late Chief of Staff. You usually have a saying, a dead man, let the dead man bury and sleep well.